everyone. On behalf of Microsoft, I have to say, and I want to begin by saying it's a great privilege and honour to be invited to be here to talk about something that we're very passionate about, which is the question of what role will technology play in this just transition that's important not just here in New Zealand but around the world. It's something that we're deeply aware of and committed to, and we feel a huge responsibility to play our part in helping us all create a better future enabled by and through the wise use of technology. Oops. Let's just go back. Whoever's running the slideshow, could we just go back? Thanks. So before I get into my talk, and I'm going to go fairly quickly because I certainly hope to get some questions at the end of the session, just a little bit about me to help you understand where I'm coming from when I'm talking on behalf of Microsoft about these topics. And there's really sort of 3 or 4 things that I'd like to touch on that I think will be useful. Firstly, I think I'm lucky to have probably the best job anyone can have at Microsoft in New Zealand or anywhere else in the world. I'm not in a sales role. I'm in a role of working with our stakeholders in government, across all our customers in the private sector, with non-government organisations, with consumers, to help figure out how Microsoft can be relevant and how people can take best advantage of what we create and bring to market, which we hope can be used for the best of purposes. So I love my job. I love the fact that I'm in a position to come and talk at this summit about these most vital topics. They speak to who I am, to my background. My academic background is broad because I'm curious. I'm an economic historian, but I've also studied environmental policy, environmental economics, environmental physics, geology, and a number of other topics, which all help me, I think, understand the changes that we are going through as societies, the change that the world is experiencing, that the planet is experiencing, and again help me ground my thinking about the role of technology and all of that usefully. Third, I'm a great student of and fan of a philosopher called Buckminster Fuller. Who in this room is aware of Buckminster Fuller? Thank goodness. People normally look at me blankly. Who's Buckminster Fuller? At best they might know the geodesic domes sprang out of his fertile mind and imagination. But Buckminster Fuller tried to teach us something I fervently believe and I think is fundamentally important. We live in a world of abundance, not scarcity. And the thing that abounds the most is human creativity, intelligence. And we have more of it than we've ever had in the past because we have more humans on the planet today. That is the greatest natural resource, and I'm confident that when I look around this room, there's enough abundance of intellect and goodwill and understanding that we can address any challenge, including this one, successfully and end up in a far better place than where we stand today. Last, harking back to the last session, you may notice I'm on the older end of the age spectrum, and with that comes the license to be a bit grumpy and intemperate at times. I listened to the talk about what are we going to do about transport in this country? How will that impact New Zealanders economically? And there's a wonderful set of options ahead of us. One that I think is being ignored and I want to call attention to is the biofuels roadmap that was put together by Scion and published by Minister Woods at the beginning of last year, which tells us that if we wished, we could substitute all our transport fuels in this country with biofuels made from trees. That's awesome. No one's talking about it. So I've made it my business to try and start people talking about that. If you haven't read this report, read it. I think it could be an important part of where we could go next as a nation that plays to our distinct nature and strengths, our agricultural underpinnings and heritage, which are not going to go away, as far as I can see. Why would we want them to? So, what role does technology play, or could technology play in helping us transition as a society, as a global species? Well, this first statement is a Microsoft global view on the challenge we face. We know it's unprecedented. We need to mitigate climate change, we need to ensure resilient water supplies, we need to feed a growing population, we need to stem catastrophic loss of biodiversity. When we think about New Zealand, well, we believe we need to transition to a low carbon economy, but in the process, we need to understand and develop the new economic opportunities that lie ahead of us, and they're myriad. We need to enhance well-being, and what better time to talk about well-being? The current government has brought this into focus for us in a most meaningful and exciting way. And of course, we need to protect the environment. Now, I'm not a card-carrying member of the libertarian left coast technological utopian fantasist cult that tells us that the solution, of course, is technology. That's the answer. What's the question? But I'm absolutely convinced that digital technologies, and in particular artificial intelligence and Internet of Things technologies, and quantum computing, which is nearly a reality, will be within the next 10 years, can help us chart a better future. And when we think about the challenge we face, I'm an optimist, and I think we need to all be optimists. I think there's a lot of good news. Firstly, we've been here before. This is not a new challenge. This is the sort of challenge that our ancestors faced when they came out of the last ice age 17,000 years ago. This is the challenge that our far distant descendants, if they still exist, will face when the next ice age comes, as it inevitably will, no matter what we do today. Because I told you I studied geology. In particular, I studied paleogeology. Geologists think in much longer time frames. Unless we achieve Star Trek-like planetary geoengineering capabilities, which in some ways is a terrifying thought, but is being proposed by many technologists, then I think, one of these days there'll be a gathering here who won't remember us, but will be faced with similar but different challenges. So the challenges aren't new. If we confine our thinking to the last 200 or so years of our history, we can see that technology has enabled successive industrial revolutions. And technology, more than anything, has changed the way we live on this planet. It's changed the way our economies operate. It's changed the way our societies work. And I fervently believe if we take a slightly different lens, step out of the immediate here and now, the story of those 200 years is the world has got better in immeasurable ways. If we go back to the beginning of the 19th century, it's not as though people were living in some blissful idyll. Human lifespans sat around 30 to 40 years. People worked almost exclusively in agricultural occupations, so they had short lives of drudgery and hard labour. Then came the steam engine, the mechanisation. Then came electricity. In the 1970s, we saw the first wave of the impact of microprocessors. And today, we stand on the beginnings, or maybe we're already well into the next industrial age, where we're seeing a blurring of the physical and the digital worlds enabled by new technologies, cloud platforms, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. Quantum computing is coming. So my hypothesis, my argument is the world has got better, not worse. But along the way it's come at a cost. And that cost is very much what we're here to talk about over these 2 days, and as we leave, what we will be talking about as we go forward. How do we reduce the cost and maximise the benefits? As I say, this is not new. Some of you are as old as me and will remember the Knowledge Wave conference and programme of work that the Labour-led government put in place in 2001. I was one of the officials on the organising committee. There was a publication which ironically you now can't find on the internet called The Internet Freezership of the 21st Century Economy. But that's what it looked like. I remember I was part of the committee that oversaw its production. And what I've highlighted in yellow there are some of the key things that were being talked about. Now, the only thing that wasn't being talked about 20 years ago was the environment. You could add the environment to that statement, and what have we got? Quite a rich history. 20 years of thinking about these issues that extends further, of course, but it's been part of the mainstream discourse for a long time. Again, what we're talking about here is not new. It's not unfamiliar to us. Remember, I'm an optimist, and one thing that gives me huge optimism, given a belief that digital technologies are fundamental to help us charting and creating a better future for ourselves, for our children, is the fact that we're a leading digital nation. In 2017, the Fletcher School at Tufts University updated and published what's called the Digital Evolution Index. On the horizontal axis is the rate of momentum of countries in adopting digital technologies. On the vertical axis is the overall level of digitalisation of countries. In the upper right quadrant are what the Fletcher School has described as 3 digital superpowers. New Zealand's one of those digital superpowers. So I'd invite you to reflect on that. To the extent that digital is part of helping us move forward successfully, then boy, who's better positioned than New Zealand? Many people in this room have been part of that phenomenon. It's been a journey of many steps. Government has played a vital role, and it helps us as we think about where we're going next. So as you sort of think about that, let me then take us back 100 years. I'm sure you all recognise that building in the middle of this photo. That's the Flatiron Building on 5th Avenue in New York. The photo was taken in 1905. And I'd ask you, what is it that really stands out about this photo, and what do I want to call to your attention? Are there any takers? No cars. All the transport is horse-drawn. Now, 1905 was when Henry Ford was bringing us the wonder of mass production of motor vehicles. So at this time, there were 100,000 people in New York employed in looking after horses and feeding them, caring for them, managing them, driving them, and cleaning up after them. 100,000 jobs, one city. More importantly, a very large proportion of the agricultural output of the United States went down horses' throats. So the horse was one of the biggest consumers of agricultural output. So not just 100,000 jobs depended upon the horse, millions of jobs depended upon the horse. 20 years later, what do we see? The horses are gone. The 100,000 jobs in New York are gone. Millions of jobs in agriculture across the United States are gone. Yet, millions of new jobs, arguably more fulfilling for people, had been created. America and the world was starting to move at the speed of the motor car. blissfully unaware of carbon emissions, of course. But I would argue, and many would argue, the world had in many ways become a better place. If we look forward to today, the cars are still with us. That shows us, apart from anything else, just how valuable they are, how liberating they are, individually, societally. Many good things have come about because of the car and personal mobility, things that we don't want to deny ourselves in the future. But if we look forward 20 years, if cars are still in the streets of New York, then what do we anticipate? That they'll be electric vehicles, or maybe powered by the great New Zealand innovation of tree-based biofuels as a drop-in replacement at the pump for CO2. They'll be autonomous, we believe. So we may not all own cars, but we'll have personal mobility that's better for the world, is more sustainable. That depends fundamentally on digital technologies. Cars today that are rolling off the production lines every second are producing enough data, if it were printed out and put into books, to fill up 2 average-sized bookcases per second. That's an unbelievable amount of data going into cloud platforms around the world, and digital is absolutely fundamental to a future where we have autonomous vehicles, whether they be EVs or not. Without digital, that future is not possible. So coming back to today, the question was really, how can digital help New Zealand transition to a new future, or to the future? Really, in the time I have, there are too many ways that digital will play a meaningful, important role to share. So I'll start with the fundamentals. The emissions from data centres around the world contribute a significant fraction of overall global CO2 emissions. In 2018, we had WSP, who are here today, globally, do a study for us to look at the energy efficiency and carbon efficiency of our cloud services. And this figure, although it didn't surprise me in a sense, it stunned me in another. The result is, from the study, that using hyperscale cloud services such as we provide, such as AWS provide, such as Google provide, Alibaba, one or two others, hyperscale referring to the sheer enormity of our cloud services, are 93% more energy efficient and as much as 98% more carbon efficient than on-premises solutions, running your own data center, or even using locally hosted IT facilities. So I told you I'm not a Microsoft salesperson, but I can't resist. If you own servers, if you have a data center, then something you can do immediately is shift that to the cloud, and you'll be making a difference. But really, the cloud in itself, which is just a collection of servers on a massive scale with huge global networks linking up huge hyper-efficient data centers, is not important. Think of that as a platform upon which any number of things can be done using the technology that represents to make change in the real world. So what the cloud enables as a platform is more important than, we could say some CO2 emissions if we use more cloud services. And even more important than that is the question of how can we use technology for good, because we need to think about that. So we have a program called AI for Earth, which is about empowering organisations to solve global environmental challenges through technological innovation. It's a $50 million fund at this stage, where we're making grants to organisations that want to use these cloud-based capabilities to make the world a better place.
In every corner of the world, researchers and organizations face unprecedented challenges. To develop solutions that address climate change and a catastrophic loss of biodiversity while sustainably feeding a growing population and protecting water supplies. Developing sustainable solutions to these challenges requires the rapid collection and analysis of diverse data sets. This is a daunting task for small organizations, preventing them from scaling their solutions and amplifying their impact. To bridge this gap, Microsoft is empowering people and organizations with AI and cloud tools to solve global environmental challenges. Through AI for Earth, individuals and organizations are now using AI to collect, process, and analyze data at a scale and speed previously unimaginable, growing more food while protecting our natural resources for future generations, turning information into insight to prevent and even predict environmental threats, and developing algorithms that enable smarter, tailored conservation solutions down to the individual animal. Microsoft is committed to accelerating innovative solutions and creating a more sustainable future, with new open-source apps that anyone can use, partnerships to accelerate progress, and grants to empower organizations around the world so everyone can harness AI and together create a better future.
So these are the four major focus areas of the AI for Earth program. New Zealand organisations are participating in the program, and we're very excited about the program and constantly working to find more innovative New Zealanders that want to take this opportunity. But now moving on, what else can we do? Well, on its own, technology isn't the answer. We know this. We also know that working alone doesn't work. And we know finally that it's not enough to ask about using technology for good. Really, what's most important is that we ask, how can we do that together? So today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, to be able to announce to you a new initiative that we've put together with a wonderful group of collaborators called PIRIC, the Primary Industries and Regional Innovation Collaborative. We believe in the potential of science and technology to help us do better for ourselves together in future, and we're going to do something about it. The whole idea of PIRIC is first and foremost grounded in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I love the way they're displayed here. They tell us that first and foremost, the biosphere is what matters. Then, of course, the biosphere enables the emergence of society, and economies are an emergent property of societies, not the other way around. So you can see along the bottom there, the partners that have come together, the Collaborative Studio, ourselves, Massey University, Cordia, Scion, and the Factory, which is New Zealand's leading ag-tech incubator down in the Manawatu. And some of the founding members are here today, and I'll just ask them to stand up. Malcolm Fraser, please, from the Collaborative Studio. Gavin Clark from Massey University, and Eve Kawana-Brown from Massey, who's here as well. And Aaron Judson, way down the back there from Scion. So we'd love to talk to you after this about what we're planning to do, why this exists, where we're going. And thank you, all of you, for your willingness to come together and co-create this with us. We've got two big focus areas. One is our primary industries, and how can technology help our primary industries create themselves for the future, become more sustainable and competitive, and face the challenges that are myriad ahead of them. And secondly, sustainable communities. What can we do working together, collaboratively, to help our communities and our regions, again, reimagine their future and equip themselves with the new skills that we need? We have a big focus on this question of working alone and the idea that it doesn't work. We believe in the power of collaborative innovation, so we're not just interested in finding new ways to bring technology to the table in these areas, but also to help us learn how to collaborate, because it's not necessarily, it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. And we want to play a role in helping drive more collaboration for good purpose. We have some principles that guide us: mutuality, openness, trust, collaboration, transparency, dialogue, and accountability. And finally, because I'm sure you're all asking yourself, what is this thing? Well, here are a few ways that should help you understand. Firstly, it's a club. It's a voluntary, unincorporated association. Literally is a club, and it's governed by a charter. We think of it as a do tank, not a think tank. We're interested in action. We want to be a facilitator and a contributor, not a controller. We want to augment and supplement all the other good things that are going on, not replace them. We see ourselves as a community builder, a community of collaborative innovators, organisations and individuals focused upon the things we think matter. It's not important in its own right. PIRIC's only value is in what it may enable in future. Importantly, it's not an accumulator of resources. By design, it's not allowed a bank account. It can never take on a life of its own. It can only hope to serve a social purpose. And it's a grand experiment. Who knows how this is going to go, but we feel nothing ventured, nothing gained. So together, and on behalf of the co-founders of PIRIC, again, I'm delighted to be able to make this announcement. We sincerely hope, and we already have activity happening on the ground, that we can play a useful role in this just transition. We'd invite everyone to learn more. We have a website, you can see the URL there, and contact us. And we're just excited to think what we can do together with this idea of using technology for good together. Thank you very much.